Oh, good morning YouTube. It's another part 6 I think we're on now. The van's up and running, and we're going to be tending to a few of the things required to get this van through an MOT, namely in the form of a new set of discs and pads for front and rear, full exhaust system from the cat back, and a pair of wing mirrors to replace these god awful looking things. I mean, you know, there it's held in by two bloody wall screws, or timber screws actually, and then the other side hasn't even got a glass on it because it stayed in the corner of the drive for 10 years. Sunlight got to it, the glue fell off, or dried out I should say, and then the wing mirror fell off and smashed on the floor, so it's looking a little bit worse for wear anyway. So got two brand new wing mirrors to go on and tarted up, but of course you need two functional mirrors for an MOT. Well, the interior one is about as much use as a chocolate fire guard because there's a bulkhead panel on the back, so as it goes it would fail there. So we'll set it on the tripod and then we'll bang on these fresh wing mirrors. And the original wing mirrors are fixed in place with 3 fat Phillips screws. I'll say though, it's not a fantastic security idea really, having the only fixings outside on the door. So nothing to stop anybody coming along with an old Phillips screwdriver and robbing these. One wing mirror off. Give it a bit of a squirt and a clean around the back of here as well, because there's mould and all sorts behind here. Just cleaning up where the pressure washer wouldn't get to, obviously, because the wing mirror covers it up. Fair bit of mould. Not very pretty around the back of there. Much better. There we go. One new passenger wing mirror fitted onto the driver's side. There we go. One brand new wing mirror fitted. Happy days. See where I'm going now? Back particularly. Happy days. Right, way off. Held it on the front by a 6mm Allen grub screw, just a locating screw for the disc, and 13mm caliper retaining bolts. Like you say, you can tell that the disc wasn't that old before it was laid up off the road for 10 years because there's absolutely no lip on there, and I dare say it'll probably clean up after a few thousand miles of driving, but just for my peace of mind I've got some new discs and pads for what they cost, £40. So yeah, we'll set about taking them off now. Just like to give it a bit of a shock before undoing it, because they more often than not have a habit of seizing. There we go. Oh, icy Steph. And she's rounded. Magical. Oh, 5-10 minutes. Drilled it out the hole with slightly smaller than a torque socket, and then tapped in a T45 Torx bit, and the tapping in unseated it because it came at a relative ease then once I'd started unscrewing it. So just got to worry about them on the back now, those 18mm rusty old bolts there. Like most VWs, you can get the disc off without taking the carrier off, but this seems to be absolutely no way that's coming out, or you can't get the angle on it anyway. So now we're good fun fight now, I think, with them bolts. Two, caliper, carrier off. Lovely job. There you go, one disc off. There we go, one hub face all cleaned up. Much to my annoyance, it hasn't come with new retaining screws, so I'm going to have to reuse the battered old one for now. Just quickly ran the caliper through a bee blaster just to get rid of a lot of the flakiness. Caliper retaining bolts on. Carrier bolts rather. Right, grease the ears up on the pads. One side down. Happy days. That's the passenger rear one fitted. I'm going to bleed it up now whilst I'm here. Okay, this is the brake bleeding setup here. So we've got a spare wheel off one of my old cars, pressurised at about 15 psi, and we've got a bleeding bottle here full of fresh brake fluid. Screws into the reservoir. At the back there on these T4s, they've got like a cap that goes on the level sensor, and it's not 100% sealed, so a bit of Heath Robinson work here. You can see is I've got the end of a drill bit on there, like a drill bit protector, like 10mm in diameter, stretched it over and then put a Jubilee clip on there, so it should take 15 psi, and then we'll be able to pressure bleed these and get a very positive feel pedal. So yeah, we're set about doing that now. So right. There we go. That's sealed. It was leaking before, that's why I've gone on with this. So I'll go to the back caliper now and crack off the what's it called, bleed nipple now, and hopefully we should have a a nice steady stream of brake fluid coming out. There you go, right, crack that off now. Go, just open it up a little bit more. Should have a proper bloody brake pipe spanner on here, like, you know, but there we go. I'm just using an old beer bottle to capture the old brake fluid. If you can hear it going in there, fills it up at quite a rate. Yeah, got to pay attention to the old reservoir where the brake fluid is kept in, as to not let it drop below a specific point. So we're still quite a way away. I'm going to bleed about 1/4 of a litre through there, so about 1/4 of the way of the bottle. That way then you can ensure that the system is properly bled. Trying to get a focus on the bottle and the light is nigh impossible. Yeah, we're not far off. We're not far off 1/4 now, so I'll just set you down and lock it up. Right, oh, it's in focus. I did bleed this when I fitted the calipers during the lockdown, so there should be still relatively fresh fluid in there, but the pedal's not 100% brilliant, so we thought we'd give it a pressure bleed. And the pressure bleed always yields fantastic results, I've found, so here we go. There we go, that's one side bled up. Okay, so both rear brakes have been done. I thought I'd save the hassle of recording the driver's side, it's more or less the same as the passenger side. I've done the front passenger brake now as well, so just to familiarise myself with the bolts and whatnot, so I can let you know what they're held on by as well. So we have on the calipers themselves, we have two 13mm caliper retaining bolts, one there, held in by two 17mm slider pins, so you pop a spanner on there to stop it spinning obviously, and then round the back of the caliper on the bottom we haven't got much light here, as you can tell. There's that bolt there, and there's a bolt up here as well, is 21mm. Then the caliper carrier retaining bolts, which you need to get off to get the disc off, because again there isn't quite enough room for angling the disc out of there like other vags. So what I'll do now is just set you down on the tripod and we'll set about cracking it off. And gently knead the piston back into the caliper with a persuasion tool whilst the pads are in it. There we go. That's the caliper back, piston back in. Sufficient space there to rest the caliper on top of the wishbone safely. There's the pads out. Loads of meat left on them, but the backing plates are crumbling and rusty as out. Now it's the big 21mm, so I'm going to crack the old impact wrench on this one. He says about the caliper. There we go, that's one bolt out. You stay up there. There we go. One caliper carrier out the way. I have just cheated and lumped hell out of the grub locating screw for the desk, so hopefully, there we go, comes off without a vent. There we go. One disc off. Yeah, it's got quite a lip on that on the inside actually. I'd say it's probably about 2 mils, so this disc's probably past it. I can't make out what the maximum thickness rating is on it, to be fair. But yeah, I'd say it's past its due, that one there. Well, in my older age, I don't know whether I'm getting lazier or just working smarter. Nowadays, cleaning up hub faces, I just use a bloody drill and a good knotted wire wheel just to get rid of the surface rot. That'll do. Grab the new disc. Okay, so cleaned up our face. Just going to apply a very light coating of grease on the face just to stop corrosion building up on there again. Just a quarter of a turn beyond, hand tight. Caliper carrier back on now. I must again admit, off camera I've chased the threads because they were a bit rusty to say the least, so I've chased them and cleaned them up. So just get a breaker bar on them as well, just to make sure they're sufficiently tight. I'd say about the same sort of torque figure as a wheel bolt person I would, because they are the same thread and size. So yeah, that's tight, and that's tight as well. Right, so pre-grease the ears on the new brake pads and the contact patches on the pad carrier / caliper carrier, so they slot on lovely. Annoyingly, my replacement brake pads have only come with 2 caliper retaining bolts, so there's a new one and there's an original one, so I'm going to have to make do with that now and just closely monitor the calipers, make sure nothing happens over time. So before, 13mm M8 bolts, 17mm slider pin. Don't need to swing on these bolts, just when it starts to nip up, again probably about a quarter of a turn. That'll do. One set of discs and pads fitted, time to bleed it. Slot the pipe on the bleed nipple, ready to catch the fluid. Couple of little air bubbles dislodging there, so that's a good sign. Snip her up now and check on the level up top. Perfect. Just enough brake fluid. Make sure when you do bleed the brakes you have enough brake fluid, unlike me I've just had enough. Ooh, this will be fun. Lovely rusted exhaust clamps. Well, angle grinder at the ready. I'll have a go at undoing the nuts first. Well, broke one off. There we go. Oh, there she is, actually, hasn't spun. Happy days. That's one warm bolt though. In my infinite wisdom, when I had the exhaust out, I put some galvanised type bolts on here so they'll never rust. However, I'd forgotten to put the top bolt in the cat, so it's only actually had 2 bolts in it. Never mind. That is near enough ready to drop down now, that is, so. We have one loose exhaust system. One complete cat back exhaust off. See, she's a little bit dry and scabby. I suppose we'd all be a bit dry and scabby if we'd been staying in the same spot for 10 years. There's another hole there that I didn't clock, where it makes up with the sleeve for the back box to centre section. And then there's a big old hole down here. But the rest of it's fine. Like I say, this is the original cat on there. And it's the low grade stainless type, so that's pretty good. It's just anything backwards really, but we have that exhaust there to go on. So I'm just going to split the old exhaust now. Just transfer the old rubbers off the original exhaust. Just off camera, I had a little bit of a fight with the shield up front, and I've slipped the cat on. Just got to bolt it to the bracketry up front. bolt this cat back up to the downpipe now. That's 3 bolted up tight. There we go. 1 cat back exhaust fitted. Certainly no leaks there.